I was 7 years old when I met the Pale Children. I'm 32 now, and I still can't explain what happened that summer. My therapist says childhood trauma can manifest in strange ways, that young minds create elaborate stories to cope with things they don't understand. But therapists weren't there. They didn't see what I saw. My name is Rebecca, and this is the story my parents have spent 25 years trying to convince me I imagined. We moved into the house on Maple Street in June of 1999. It was a beautiful Victorian, the kind with a wraparound porch and a turret room that became my bedroom. My parents were thrilled. They'd gotten it for almost nothing because it had been empty for 3 years. Nobody wanted to talk about why. The first night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was scared, but because I heard children laughing outside my window. When I looked out, I saw them in the backyard. 3 kids, maybe my age, playing in the moonlight. They were wearing old-fashioned clothes, the kind I'd seen in my grandmother's photo albums. White nightgowns that seemed to glow. "Mom!" I called. "There are kids in our yard." My mother came up, looked out the window, and saw nothing. "Sweetie, there's nobody there. You're just excited about the new house. Try to sleep." But I could still see them, still hear them laughing as they played a game I didn't recognize, holding hands and spinning in a circle faster and faster until they blurred together into a ring of white. The next morning, I went outside to look for evidence they'd been there. The grass where they'd been playing was dead, a perfect circle of brown, withered grass in the middle of our otherwise green lawn. "Must be a fairy ring," my father said when he saw it. "Mushrooms do that sometimes, will reseed it." But I knew better. I'd seen them. I'd heard them. And that night, they came closer. I woke to tapping on my window. The turret room was on the second floor, so there shouldn't have been anything that could reach the glass. But there they were, 3 faces pressed against a window, their skin so pale it was almost translucent. They weren't smiling. They were just watching. Their eyes were wrong. Too dark, too large, like pools of black water. "Let us in," one of them whispered, her voice somehow audible through the glass. "It's cold out here. Let us in to play." I pulled my blanket over my head and prayed they'd go away. The tapping continued for hours. Tap, tap, tap. Patient, persistent. In the morning, there were handprints on my window. Small handprints. Dozens of them, covering the glass. My parents cleaned them off, saying I must have been pressing my hands against the window during the night. But the prints were on the outside. "Rebecca," my mother said gently, "are you having nightmares? Is something bothering you about the new house?" How could I explain? They'd think I was making it up, seeking attention. 7-year-olds have vivid imaginations. Everyone knows that. But then other things started happening. I'd find my toys rearranged in the morning, my dolls positioned in a circle facing inward, as if they'd been having a meeting. The clothes in my closet would be pushed to one side, creating a space just big enough for a child to hide. And every night, I heard them outside my window whisper my name. "Rebecca, come play with us. Rebecca, we've been waiting so long. We're so lonely." One night, I made the mistake of asking them a question. I don't know what possessed me. Maybe I was tired of being scared, or maybe I just needed to understand. "Who are you?" I whispered to the darkness. The whisper stopped. Silence pressed against my window, thick and expectant. Then, slowly, words formed in the condensation on the glass, written by invisible fingers from the outside. "We lived here first." I screamed. My parents came running. But by the time they arrived, the words had faded, leaving only the wet streaks on the glass. That's when they started taking me to doctors, child psychologists who asked about stress at school, changes in my life, whether I felt safe at home. I told them about the Pale Children, and they nodded sympathetically and wrote in their notebooks, "Night, Terrors, they said. Adjustment disorder. Maybe ADHD causing intrusive thoughts. But the children kept coming. They got bolder. One night, I woke to find my bedroom door open, and all three of them standing at the foot of my bed. Up close, I could see they weren't quite right. Their features were too symmetrical, too perfect, like dolls designed by someone who had never actually seen a human child up close. Their nightgowns didn't move, even though I could feel a cold breeze in the room. "Why won't you play with us?" the middle one asked. She tilted her head at an angle that made my stomach turn. "We picked you specially. We've been waiting for a new friend." "I don't want to play," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "Please leave me alone." "But you have to play," the smallest one said, her voice sad. "If you don't play with us, we'll have to take someone else. Your mommy, maybe, or your daddy. They're older, not as fun, but they'll do. Don't you dare." I found courage I didn't know I had. "Don't you touch them." The children smiled then, and it was the most horrible thing I'd ever seen. Too many teeth, teeth that came to points. "Then play with us," they said in unison. "Come outside, join our circle, dance with us until morning. That's all we want." I shook my head, trembling. "No." "Then we'll wait," they said. "We're very good at waiting. We've been waiting in this house for a very, very long time." They faded then, not walking away, just becoming less solid until they were gone, leaving only the smell of old earth and something sweet and rotten. The next day, I begged my parents to let me sleep in their room. They agreed, probably hoping it would help with my night terrors. But that night, the pale children stood in my parents' doorway. I could see them, even though my parents couldn't. They just stared at me, their dark eyes unblinking, until the sun came up. This went on for weeks. I stopped sleeping. I started seeing them during the day, too, in reflections in mirrors, standing at the edges of rooms, watching from the shadows under the stairs. My parents were at their wits' end. I'd lost weight, developed dark circles under my eyes, stopped playing with other kids. Then one night, my grandmother came to visit. She was my mother's mother, a stern woman from Poland who had never approved of the house purchase. She took one look at me and knew. "The pale ones," she said simply. "They're here." My parents tried to dismiss her, but she insisted on staying in my room that night. When the pale children appeared at the window, she saw them too. "Boz mode," she whispered. "Strzygi." She spent the next day preparing, muttering prayers in Polish, making something from herbs and salt and things she wouldn't let me see. That night, she spread it around my room, across the windowsills, under the bed, in the doorway. The pale children came as usual, but this time they couldn't get close. They stood at the window, their faces contorted with rage, pressing against some invisible barrier, their mouths open impossibly wide, revealing darkness inside instead of throats. My grandmother held me tight and prayed in Polish until sunrise. "They are trapped things," she told my parents the next morning. "Children who died wrong in the wrong place at the wrong time. This house," she shook her head, "you should not be here." We moved out 2 weeks later. My parents said it was because of the mold problem they discovered, though I never saw any mold. The house sold quickly to a young couple. They had a daughter, about 7 years old. I tried to warn them. I really did. But what could I say? Don't let your daughter sleep in the turret room, because ghost children will try to make her join their eternal game. They'd think I was crazy. Maybe I am crazy. 25 years later, and my parents still insist I made it all up, that it was just childhood anxiety manifesting as hallucinations. My grandmother died 10 years ago, taking her certainty with her. But I know what I saw, and I know that house is still standing on Maple Street. I've driven by it a few times over the years. Different families live there now. I've noticed they never stay long. 2 years, maybe 3 at most. And they always have children. Last year, I found a news article from 1952. 3 children had died in that house. Sisters aged 6, 7, and 9. They'd been playing in the backyard when the old well collapsed. It took them 3 days to recover the bodies. The article mentioned the children had been having a tea party near the well when it happened, playing a circle and singing. The well had been filled in and built over decades ago. Our backyard, where I'd first seen the pale children playing, was exactly where it had been. I have a daughter now. She's almost 7. We live 3 states away from that house. But sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and check her window, making sure there are no pale faces pressed against the glass, no small hands tap and come in. So far, we've been lucky. But I remember what they said. We've been waiting in this house for a very, very long time. And I wonder if houses are all they're limited to. If maybe, just maybe, they remember the children who saw them and refused to play. If they're patient enough to wait years, decades even, for a second chance. My daughter's room is protected. I may not remember all of my grandmother's prayers, but I remember the salt, the herbs, the protective circle. I've learned more since then, researched folklore and protective rituals from a dozen different cultures. My husband thinks I'm paranoid. My therapist thinks I'm still processing childhood trauma. But I know what I saw. I know what waited at my window night after night, patient and pale and hungry for a playmate. And I know that childhood innocence is sometimes the only thing standing between us and things that should never be seen. If you ever see children playing in your yard at night, children you don't recognize, children who seem too pale and too perfect and too still, don't let them in, no matter how sweetly they ask, no matter how lonely they seem. Some games are meant to last forever, and some players never get to go home.